This is Inside the Right. So, Tim, the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is official. Biden was actually the aggressor here. He was the one who called Trump out for not debating, and within like an hour, 2 debates were on the books, one in June and the other in September. Who benefits more from these debates actually happening?
My honest view on this is I think that both of them kind of needed the debates. There's been a ton of discourse. Some on the left have not wanted Joe Biden to debate for various reasons, because you can't trust Trump, because he lies, the platforming, and I understand those concerns. But I just think that Joe Biden had to debate to address the concerns about his age, which is the top. I think the age and inflation are basically the 2 main concerns that are hurting him right now with persuadable voters. And so he had to take it head on. Look what happened after the State of the Union. That was when we saw his numbers go up, because some people were like, oh, okay, he assuaged some concerns about his age. I think that's a big reason. The message was also good, the State of the Union. And so I think that he benefits from low expectations here. And I feel like he has to go out there and do it. So I thought it was good that Joe Biden did it. I was glad that he was the aggressor and that he didn't come at it from a position of, Donald Trump trying to troll him and then him eventually agreeing, right? That was another potential path that we could have gone, and so I'm happy that he took the initiative on this. Trump, on the other hand, does benefit. I mean, the liberals and progressives, the Biden fans that are worried about this, are rightly worried about the fact that Trump doesn't play by any rules, and so in some ways the debates they haven't always, but they can at times work to his favor, because he's willing to make attacks and use rhetoric and use types of language and use lies and conspiracies that normal politicians won't. And so in the end, I think that they both decided that it was kind of to their benefit to do it.
Now, Trump didn't debate any of his primary opponents because he was confident enough that he would win, and so he didn't want to debase himself by going on stage with people who he knew would be losers, who wouldn't be up to par. Here, he agreed to numerous debates. So does that suggest that he's that much less confident about his race with Biden?
Yeah, I think he's less confident about his position, for sure. I think that if he really was buying that he's up 12 in Nevada, he might have let this sit for a little bit.
He's already proven by virtue of his actions that that's his strategy.
Right, yeah, in the primary. And so, he didn't, there were some different contingencies in the primary. You don't want to elevate some of these people hadn't heard of. People have heard of the president, Joe Biden, right? So I do think it's not a total apples-to-apples comparison, but that certainly would be a strategy if he felt like he had a clear lead. And so I don't think that he feels like he does. I think that's accurate. He also, I just will say, and I think this works to Biden's favor, I think he also buys his own BS about Biden having dementia or whatever. I really do.
Yeah, I completely agree, and we're going to dig into that right now. Just a quick note for anybody watching right now, if you want to see and hear more from Tim and also support the work that he does, please subscribe to The Bulwark. It's his YouTube channel. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Very important to lift up pro-democracy media across the entire ecosystem. Okay, so to that point, Trump and his mouthpieces are already doing what they usually do in lowering expectations for Biden. I believe it was Hugh Hewitt, before the event had even been agreed to, it was just the other morning when he was talking to Trump, who suggested that Biden wouldn't even be able to stand up during the debate. So immediately going into the lowering expectations avenue of this, isn't this just going to have the same effect that it always has by lowering expectations so much that Joe Biden easily exceeds them, and then of course they all complain that he's doing coke?
Yeah, really dumb strategy. I don't know why you don't start with the coke. I don't want to give these guys any ideas, right? But if you're going to do that, then this stuff matters. Debates, expectations beating matters in these debates. Perceptions matters. A lot of people don't watch all of the debates. They just see the clips and they just see the discussion around it. And so if the bar is set at Biden is like Weekend at Bernie's and can't even walk, that makes it a lot easier for him to beat expectations. And so I think that they believe their own BS, and I think that hubris could come to backfire on this one, because if I was in Trump's ear, I'd be saying, look, talk about how Joe Biden obviously is taking B12 shots and he goes crazy at these, do something,
right?
Or remind him and say, or you could even do the thing, if Trump had the humility to do this, you could even do the thing where it says, look, Joe Biden beat me last time in the first debate. I'm never going to let that happen again. I'm going to kill him this time, right? That would also conceivably be a good message. But what they're doing is really doing Biden a favor on the expectation side of things.
Right. All he has to do is basically show up, and everyone's going to, give him a whole round of applause for just being able to do what they said he couldn't do, which was to walk on his own 2 feet. I mean, Hugh Hewitt is not some nobody in the right-wing media ecosystem, and so now their expectations are all at the floor. And if Joe Joe can pretty much show up and just like get his first sentence out, then he'll have exceeded what the expectations that they set for him. To that point, then, what do each of these guys have to accomplish on that stage, in this first debate in June, and who's more likely to accomplish it?
Boy, Donald Trump needs to not sound. They both have very low expectations, I will say. The Biden campaign's smart enough to not help Donald Trump lower his own expectations, but like Donald Trump needs to not sound like a lunatic. Honestly, doesn't
leave a lot of room. Doesn't leave a lot of room to do much else.
Yeah, that's his main goal. And if you remember the first debate in 2020, he came off rabid.
Let's throw to a clip of just like a little supercut of that debate right here.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You followed it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead, say it.
You asked a question. Let him finish. Law and order.
Let him, Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
First of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised.
The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that.
I mean, that doesn't look like a person that you want with their finger on the button, And so his main goal, I think, is to try to appeal to the Nikki Haley voters, right? I try to demonstrate that, he is not going to completely crash the entire government, right? That like he doesn't have some crazy anarchist plan, and that he is, kind of a mainstream MAGA, right? Which is not normal, but just sort of and kind of advance the more populist nationalist views. I think that's going to be his main goal. But like, is he capable of that? Is he capable of showing any restraint? I don't think so. Joe Biden, on the other hand, I think his goal is going to be really to do two things. Number one, to demonstrate his competence and that he's got the vigor for this, like he did during the State of the Union. And number two, to position Donald Trump as too far outside the mainstream, right? If it's Donald Trump's job to demonstrate that he's not crazy, it's Joe Biden's job to help demonstrate that Donald Trump's freaking crazy, right? And I think that there's a lot of voters out there that don't love Joe Biden, that aren't thrilled about the economy. I think a lot of that is unfair, but like whatever, this is politics. It's not beanbag. Fair doesn't really matter. And I think trying to convince them that like the economy's good is like, that's a very challenging job. Trying to convince them that Donald Trump is a lunatic and they don't want to risk it, that's a doable job. And so I think that's going to be his number two assignment.
All right. So the second part of that question: who do you think is more likely to accomplish the goal that they'll both set out to accomplish?
Yeah, I think Biden, but I'm nervous about it.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
No, I mean,
about
it's true. Like Donald Trump is not an easy person to be on that stage with, and you're going to have somebody who's going to interrupt every single second of that debate the entire time, and Joe Biden can get easily frustrated. We've seen it before.
Yeah, and I can speak from firsthand. I mean, it pains me to admit this, but Donald Trump outdebated Jeb like in 2016, and I think Biden's a better debater than Jeb was. Jeb had a lot of strengths as a candidate. Debating was not just really one of them. But Trump, I not in my eyes, but like just objectively in the numbers, the way he kind of bullied Hillary, I think in a large part because of some latent misogyny, really, a debate that I think a lot of us looked at and thought Hillary won clearly. It landed with a certain segment of the electorate. So you do have to worry about that. And Trump's demonstrated that he's capable of, in his crazy way, like kind of dominating a stage. And
Right.
Biden's going to have to hold his ground. So I would say, look, if I'm having to bet, I'm glad Biden did the debates. And I feel like he'll probably be more likely to accomplish his goals, but it's not a slam dunk.
Right. What do you think about the implications on the broader electorate here? I mean, for a lot of people who don't pay attention to politics, they may not, have come to terms with the fact that this really is a binary race between these two guys who are relatively unpopular, and they don't, they're not paying attention. They might have heard that it's Trump and Biden, but there's the RFK of it all. There's still Nikki Haley who's taking, 20 to 25% in these primary contests. There's still people who are holding out hope on the Democratic side that Joe Biden's going to drop out. I mean, that's a huge talking point on the right. They're still talking about this insane notion that Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom is going to swoop in. So for a lot of people, it's not calcified in their minds yet that it's going to be a Trump-Biden rematch. And so by virtue of having these guys on stage, this kind of does this really is the beginning of this final two-person race as we head toward November. So what do you think the implications on the broader electorate are going to be as a result of that?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it'll be really interesting to see how that impacts kind of the data and the polling, because the big group that Biden is struggling with right now is people that aren't watching YouTube shows like this, right? It's people that are less engaged in politics, that are checked out for whatever reason. And a lot of them, to your point, are like, those people are like RFK curious. Like Trump's, if you look at the ballot numbers, it's not like Trump's improving that much. His numbers are up like a tiny little bit.
Right.
It's that Biden's numbers are down. And the problem is people that are like, hey, I don't like Biden, I don't like either of these guys. I'm still hoping another option emerges. I'm kicking the tires on these third-party candidates, or I'm not paying attention at all. Screw this. And so I do think that this debate will be very highly watched. And I think that it will be a wake-up call, and it'll be interesting to see what the impact is on that voting group. Because, and the other thing to note is, it's really early. I mean, this debate is happening in June. Like, it's only a couple weeks after, if you look back at 2008, the Hillary-Obama primary race didn't even end until June.
Yeah.
Right? And like this general election debate is happening in June. And a big part of that is because the general election has like kind of been happening for a long time, since we didn't really have any competitive primaries on either side. I mean, we quasi did on the Republican side, but not really. And so, I think that, we're a little bit in uncharted territory here. And I do think, to your point, like having this debate early is going to rattle the cages of some people that like haven't come to terms with the fact that this is the choice.
And by the way, to that point, like we're seeing Trump's poll numbers around what he was polling at throughout the entire time. I mean, he has like a 46, 47% ceiling. It's Joe Biden who's down in like the high 30s, like 39, 40%. So I think at this point, once people recognize, by virtue of this debate happening, by virtue of, it really culminating down to two people, is that Biden's numbers are going to go up because people are going to recognize that like this is it, for better or for worse, for people out there in the Democratic coalition, that this is going to be the candidate. And so once they stop holding out hope that it's going to be like somebody swapped out in the last minute, or that RFK is going to be their savior. I mean, the guy's not even going to be on the stage as of right now. He still needs 2 more polls at 15%, and his numbers have been stuck at like 9 or 10%. So it doesn't look like RFK is going to be on that stage come June. So we may see Biden's poll numbers ultimately increase, whereas Trump is kind of at his ceiling. He's been at his ceiling, and he's probably going to stay at his ceiling. So I think a lot of the movement is going to happen on Joe Biden's side, if you would agree with that.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. I hope they keep RFK off the stage for that reason. That I do think would be a wild card if you end up getting those numbers. That'll be something to watch over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Tim, you also mentioned about the fact that, that will have an impact on people who aren't watching YouTube shows like this. I think it's important to note that YouTube shows like this aren't necessarily for a whole contingent of people who aren't, super plugged into political content. A lot of it is, for people who are watching right now, for you all to kind of serve as tribunes and go take information you hear back to your circles. We're not going to be able to reach everybody in the entire country, but you all have people in your lives who don't pay attention to politics, who may be ignorant about what's happening in politics. So, use the fact that we have somebody for whom in the same primary, when Tim was supporting Jeb Bush and I was supporting like Elizabeth Warren, pretty big gap there, that if we can agree on this, then obviously then hopefully we're giving you enough of enough sense, enough information to then bring that back into your circles and be able to persuade people in accordance with that.
Amen, brother. I agree, because it's those the less engaged folks that are the issue right now. It hasn't always been true for the Democrats, but this cycle it is, and so it's super important to get to those people in your lives, and hopefully we can play a little part of that.
And to that point, then, also important to elevate content that is pro-democracy content, even not just in the left, but also in the center and the right. So again, if you're not yet subscribed to The Bulwark, please make sure to subscribe. We'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Tim Miller.
This is Inside the Right.